to you. Welcome back to another episode of Sincerely Legenia. Today, I'm gonna be showing you guys how I make my traditional dressing. So this is not a keto recipe. It is my traditional dressing. I'm getting ready to start cooking for my family. And while you may not be able to do this recipe this Thanksgiving, because I'm getting it out to you kind of late, you can definitely use it at Christmas, Easter, whatever time of the year that you feel like making a delicious Southern traditional dressing. I have got the recipe for you. I've been making this recipe for years. I've taken it to work before. I've used it so many times, and it is a big hit. It is so simple, so delicious, and I hope you guys like it. So first, before we start, I'm going to make my cornbread, and I'm using, not homemade cornbread, but I always use these corn kits. This is not a sweet cornbread. I've shared that with you in previous videos. I do not like sweet cornbread. I do not like sweet dressing. And again, I've served this to so many people over the years, and it has always been a great big hit. So I hope that you guys like it. So right now, let's get started on the cornbread. All right, to begin, I'm going to start with 2 packets of cornbread. As we say back in the old days, 2 packets of your Sunday's best cornbread. At 425 degrees for approximately 15 to 20 minutes until it is golden and brown. All right, while our cornbread is in the oven, we are going to get our chicken ready. Now, you guys know in a previous video, I made all of these jars of chicken stock, but for this recipe, I am going to use a method that I saw one of my favorite YouTubers use. Her name is Tracy over at Tracy's Place. She makes her chicken broth by baking her chicken in the oven, and I saw her method. It was so rich and delicious looking and full of flavor. I said that I wanted to try the same thing. So I'm going to put a link to her recipe and how she did it. I'm going to put a link right about here so you guys can check that out. But I'm going to use her method and bake some in the oven, and I'm going to use the broth from this baked chicken. I'm going to use it in my traditional dressing this time instead of the homemade a traditional chicken broth that I made. So she first began with adding water to the pan, and I'm gonna do that now. And I think hers was about halfway filled with water, so I'm probably gonna have to put some more bottles of water in here. Yeah, I don't think this is gonna be enough. Let me get some more water. And Tracy used chicken legs only. I have a whole chicken here, a beautiful whole chicken that I got from Fresh Market. I'm gonna use this whole chicken to make the broth. And one more. So I'm using, for this whole chicken, I'm using about 5 bottles of water. Yeah, that's gonna put it at halfway, at the halfway point. And you guys, I found this really deep dish foil pan at my local Kroger store. I was so happy I did, because I wanted something that was gonna be deep enough to hold just enough broth for my dressings. Okay, so we're gonna start out with olive oil. We're just gonna put a little bit of olive oil all over our chicken. Of course, it's definitely gonna get into that broth right there. And now we're just gonna simply add our seasonings, okay? So we're gonna begin with just original Lawry seasoned salt. Now, she used some different seasonings, and she just used some of her favorites, so I'm just gonna do the same, use some of my favorite seasonings. So I'm just gonna sprinkle some of this all over the chicken. And it's gonna get all in the water. And of course, yeah, it's gonna get in the water. We want that. We want the broth to be nice and flavorful. I'm gonna put some more of that on there too, okay? And I'm not gonna bother trying to make sure the seasoning stays on the chicken. This broth is gonna be seasoned so well that all this seasoning and things is gonna definitely get inside of the chicken. So I'm not gonna turn the chicken over and try to season the other side or any of that, okay? So it's just gonna come off in the water anyway. So now I'm putting pepper all over. And we're gonna add onion powder. And we're adding liberal amounts here, quite a bit, okay? No, I don't have any measurements. I'm just putting the amount on that I think is sufficient. And I don't know if I said already, but this is onion powder and garlic powder. Yes. And I'm telling you, hers was looking so good and flavorful. I mean, that broth was looking amazing. Just full of flavor, and that's what I want. I want my dressing to be full of flavor as well. All right, and I'm gonna go in with this chicken flavor bouillon. I'm gonna sprinkle some of that in there. And you all, this is really, really salty, so I'm not going to put a huge amount on here or in here. It's really, really salty. I'm actually not gonna even put any on the chicken. Okay. All right. In the water, that goes. All right, so I don't want my chicken to be dry either. All right, now let's cut up some vegetables and we're gonna add our vegetables to the pan. Okay guys, so now we're getting ready to add our vegetables and I'm just gonna do a rough chop. They don't have to be in big pieces. So I've already washed these. This is 3. They're really small stalks of celery, but I'm gonna put these 3. Move this over a little bit so you guys can see. Raise that up a teeny bit. There we go. Hope you guys can see that. All right, so I'm gonna add these 3 stalks of celery. And just so you guys know, these leaves that are on celery, do you know these are edible? You can eat these, okay? They're full of flavor. Just make sure you wash them really, really well, okay? But those leaves can be used. Use every part of that celery. I always do, except for the end pieces that are typically lighter, and they're the ones that hold all of that grease and or dirt and grime. So that we do not want, okay? So, okay, we've got our celery in there, and we're going to add, let's see, I think I have a little bit more than what she had. So I think she used 2 stalks of celery, if I remember correctly. And I think that's why I used the 3. But I think even with this onion, I may use a whole onion. I think she said she used a half of an onion. I'm not sure. I'm guessing. But also, I'm going to roughly chop this as well, because we're really just really wanting this to help to flavor our water. So I'm not going to do any big, any small pieces. Okay. Do rather big pieces. Okay, and this is a large onion actually. So this may do just fine. Yeah, since this was a rather large onion, I think I may use maybe half of the other half here. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and put that in there as well. And since my pan is so deep, I'm gonna go ahead and add 1 more bottle of water. Okay, 1 more bottle of water. Because I added another bottle of water, I'm gonna go ahead and sprinkle a little bit more seasoning in here, a little bit more seasoned salt. Okay, so remember, we use that other seasoning as well. We don't want it to be too salty. All right, so now let's go ahead and cover this. I have some heavy duty foil here. I'm going to cover it. At 375 degrees, and I'm gonna let it cook for about an hour, and then I'm gonna go in and check on it to make sure that it's nice and done. All right, so when I come back to check on it, I'll make sure I have you guys along with me so you can see. All right, everybody, the cornbread is out and is looking mighty fine. All right, I ended up getting me that one right there. Actually, I think I'm gonna let that cook a little bit longer. It's a little too light for me. But these other ones are dark enough. And y'all, it is smelling so good in my house already. And all I've done was make the cornbread. That's it. But it smells so good. Now it's time to chop up the veggies. And since I'm making several batches of of dressing, I am gonna need a lot of vegetables this year. I'm literally making 4 batches of dressing. Why? Because this dressing is fabulous. When you make it, you will see. You'll see. I can't wait for you guys to try it. All right, so this year I usually chop everything by hand, but because I'm making so many, I'm gonna pull out the trusty old food processor to help do this job, since my daughter doesn't wanna help me up there. She ain't helping me. She just said that because we on camera. She ain't helping. Anyway, so let's get started. Guys, so I'm gonna check on the chicken now. Let's see what it's looking like. Uh-oh. Woo, look at that. All of those juices. Look at that. All right. All right, now I'm gonna remove the foil and I'm gonna put this back in the oven. I'm gonna let it cook for about another 20 to 30 minutes or so to let it get nice and brown on top. But look at that broth. It looks great. Everybody, here we have it. The chicken is out of the oven. It has browned on top and that broth looks amazing. Look at that. Look at the broth in there, and it smells amazing too. So yeah, this is a method that I am going to try more often. I still like the traditional way, but this right here is good too. And I cannot wait to see how it tastes. All right, so I need this broth to cool really quickly. So what I'm doing is I'm dipping the broth out with 1 cup and I'm pouring it over into another one, but I put a drain there over it to catch those vegetables because I am going to be using those vegetables. Okay, I'm going to be using them. So I'm taking it out now so that it can begin to cool because I'm ready to start making some dressing. And I have so much broth here. This makes me so happy. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to hold the camera and do all this at the same time. So I know it's probably messed up. But anyway, so that right there is a little over 4 cups. That's my 4, that measures 4 cups right there in that measuring cup. And then I still have all this broth left. I am just elated. So happy. All right. The same pan that I cooked the chicken in, we're going to use the same pan because it's so deep. I'm going to use the same pan to mix my dressing. So I'm going to get 2 batches of the cornbread and start out with these 2 batches. And I'm just going to break them up like so. Now it's time to saute my onions and celery. So I'm going to start out by adding 1 stick of butter to my pan. So we're going to add our onions and our celery. All right, and we're going to saute this. We're going to toss it in this butter. All right, and as that's cooking, we're going to go ahead and add some salt. Go ahead and season our vegetables. So we got salt added and pepper. Okay, while our vegetables are sauteing, we're going to go ahead and finish our cornbread mixture here. And to our crumbled cornbread, we're going to now add 4 cups of breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs. All right, so our breadcrumbs have been added. And I want to note to you guys that I'm making a double batch. So that's why this seems like a massive amount. I'm making a double batch here, and then actually, to be honest, I'm not even finished. I still have another batch to make, another double batch. So, but I'm always responsible for the dressing at my family gatherings every Thanksgiving. So I love it, and they love it. So now let's add in our seasoning. Next, we're going to add poultry seasoning. We're going to add sage and thyme. Now we're going to give this a good mix. Right here, I'm gonna start to add our stock, or our broth rather. So here I have the delicious, rich homemade broth that we just made today. It has cooled. I actually set it in the refrigerator to let it cool a bit. Gonna add that in and give this a stir. Oh yeah, that just soaked it right on up. Gonna add some more in. Telling y'all there's some good stuff right here. We're gonna give this a mix. Mix this stuff on up. All right, now we're going to add our vegetables, our celery, and our onion. Add that on here. Add that on in. I'm gonna go ahead and add it in now because I'm hoping it will have cooled by the time I get ready to add my egg in, because I don't want it to begin to cook my egg. So actually, if at all possible, make sure your vegetables are completely cooled before you add them in. All right, so our dressing is coming along nicely. We've got our vegetables in there. We've got our broth in there. We've got all of our seasoning in there. And before I put in the egg, I am going to taste a little bit. Gonna taste a little bit and make sure we're on the right track here. We are so on the right track. All right, because after I put this egg in, I can't taste it. All right, so now we're gonna add our egg, and all the egg does is just, it acts as a binder. Trust me, you cannot taste it at all. If you could, I would not be eating it. Trust me. All right, so we're gonna mix that in. All right, now let's put these in their individual pans. I usually put my dressing in individual pans so that every family member can take some home. So I'm gonna do that now. All right, guys, our dressing went in the oven at 400 degrees for approximately 30 to 40 minutes, and this is what we've got. It smells amazing, and I promise you it's gonna taste amazing. Look at that. And this batch right here feeds approximately 12 people.